They never shout. They never threaten. They smile while they move the pieces. You walk away from the conversation, confused, doubting your memory, your choices, even your instincts. Hours later, sometimes days later, the realization hits. You agreed to something that does not serve you. You compromised where you never intended to. You shifted your position without understanding why. That is not an accident. That is design. Manipulators do not win by force. They win by framing reality. They decide what is reasonable, what is emotional, what is urgent, and what can wait. And the most dangerous part is not that they influence you, but that they convince you that you chose it yourself. This document is not about becoming cruel, dishonest, or predatory. It is not about turning you into what you despise. It is about understanding the mechanics of manipulation so deeply that the manipulator loses their advantage by default. When you see the strings clearly, they stop working. When you understand the system can no longer trap you. The only way to counter a manipulator is not to fight them emotionally, not to out-argue them, and not to expose them publicly, but to outgrow the game they rely on. What manipulating a manipulator really means. Precision matters here. Manipulators thrive on asymmetry. They know the rules of influence, pressure, and human behavior, while you play fair, honest, and transparent. That imbalance is the entire strategy. Manipulating a manipulator does not mean copying their lies, mirroring their deception, or becoming someone who schemes in the dark. That would only move you onto their terrain, where they already have experience, comfort, and control. What it actually means is this: removing their informational advantage, controlling emotional leverage, redefining the frame of interaction, forcing clarity and transparency without direct confrontation. In short, you stop reacting and start positioning. You do not attack. You do not confess. You do not defend. You adjust the structure so their tactics no longer land. The core operating system of a manipulator. Before you can counter a manipulator, you must understand their internal logic. Most people fail at this stage because they personalize the behavior. They think they are doing this because of me. If I explain myself better, they will understand. If I show them fairness, they will respond with fairness. All three assumptions are false. Manipulation is not emotional. It is instrumental. A manipulator sees people as variables, not relationships. Measures value in control, not connection. Adjusts behavior based on outcomes, not ethics. They are constantly running a silent calculation. What response can I trigger that benefits me the most? Charm, silence, guilt, urgency, confusion, praise, withdrawals. These are not personality traits. They are tools, interchangeable, replaceable, and deployed only when effective. Once you understand this, the illusion breaks. You stop searching for sincerity where there is only strategy. Why direct confrontation always fails. Telling a manipulator, "You're manipulating me," feels powerful. It feels brave. It feels like clarity. It is none of those things. Confrontation does not expose a manipulator, it feeds them. Why? Because confrontation gives them data. What you notice, what affects you emotionally, what triggers defensiveness or fear. They do not feel threatened by exposure. They feel informed. You have just updated their internal map of you. A manipulator only loses power when their predictability collapses. Their rehearsed scripts stop working. Their control loops fail to complete. That requires structural change, not emotional release or verbal accusation. The first rule: never compete for moral high ground. This is where intelligent, ethical people make fatal mistakes. They try to win by being more honest, more logical, more morally correct. They assume that truth will correct distortion. Manipulators do not operate on morality. They operate on leverage. When you appeal to fairness, you are speaking a language they do not use. Worse, you reveal your value system, and anything revealed can be exploited instead. You shift to neutral clarity. Fewer explanations, fewer emotional signals, fewer justifications. You do not accuse. You do not plead. You observe. Observation removes friction. Friction is what manipulators use to steer outcomes. The power of strategic neutrality. Strategic neutrality is not silence, weakness, or passivity. It is controlled minimalism. Manipulators rely on emotional spikes, defensiveness, oversharing, anxiety. The deep human urge to be understood. Neutrality starves these mechanisms. In practice, strategic neutrality looks like shorter, cleaner responses, delayed replies instead of instant reactions, even tone. Regardless of provocation, this is not about being cold, it is about being unreadable. When a manipulator cannot read you, they cannot steer you. Understanding control loops. Every manipulator uses control loops, whether consciously or instinctively. Trigger. They say or do something. Calculated reaction. You respond emotionally. Adjustment. They refine the tactic. Repetition. The loop strengthens over time. Most people try to stop the trigger. They argue the narrative. They defend their intentions. All of that keeps the loop alive. Breaking. Manipulation means breaking the reaction. You do not need to stop what they say. You do not need to correct their framing. You only need to remove the emotional response they rely on. Once the reaction disappears, the loop collapses on its own. Why? Explaining yourself is a trap. Explaining feels logical. It feels mature. It feels fair to a manipulator. It is gold. Every explanation gives them your priorities, your insecurities, your pressure points. They do not argue your explanation. They store it, then they use it later precisely, efficiently, and without emotion when it benefits them most. Less explanation does not make you weak. It makes you harder to model, harder to predict, and harder to control. The first tactical shift. From expression to observation. Most people express. Manipulators observe to reverse the power dynamic. You flip roles. Instead of reacting, immediately clarifying your intent. Filling. Silence with reassurance. You begin to pause, deliberately notice behavioral patterns, track inconsistencies between words and actions. You stop asking, "How do I respond?" and start asking, "What outcome are they trying to engineer?" That single shift moves you from participant to strategist. Emotional self-regulation is non-negotiable. This is the hardest truth in this entire document. If you cannot regulate your emotions, you cannot outmaneuver a manipulator. Not because emotions are weakness, but because predictable emotions are exploitable. Self-regulation does not mean suppression. It means feeling internally, responding externally with control. This is not about acting or pretending. It is about choosing timing, expression, and exposure. Why manipulators target certain people? Manipulators do not choose randomly. They target people who are empathetic, conscientious, and introspective, conflict averse. These are not flaws. They are strengths, but unguarded strengths become entry points. Your goal is not to erase these traits. Your goal is to armor them with boundaries. The foundation going forward. Everything that follows in this document builds on three principles established here. Manipulation is structural, not personal. Emotional reactions create leverage. Control shifts when predictability disappears. This principle sounds simple, but it is rarely understood in practice. Most people assume unpredictability means randomness, sudden changes, emotional swings, or acting against their own nature. That kind of chaos does not weaken a manipulator. It strengthens them because chaos produces information. True unpredictability is not disorder. It is selective opacity. Manipulators do not need to know everything about you. They only need patterns. Once they map those patterns, influence becomes automatic. They study how fast you respond, what you react to emotionally when you explain yourself, when you seek closure, when guilt works, when silence works. From this data, they build a behavioral model. And once that model stabilizes, they no longer persuade you. They run you. The moment that model breaks, control begins to leak. Why consistency becomes a liability in manipulative dynamics in healthy relationships. Consistency creates trust in manipulative ones. One-sided consistency creates leverage. If someone knows that you always reply quickly, always clarify misunderstandings, always try to keep peace, always feel responsible for emotional tension, then pressure no longer needs aggression. It becomes quiet, efficient, and routine. They don't force you, they schedule you. This is why manipulators often feel calm while you feel exhausted. The system is working in their favor. To change this, you do not need rebellion. You need pattern disruption. Pattern disruption without conflict. Pattern disruption does not mean acting strange or hostile. That would trigger defense and escalation. It means removing mechanical reliability. You stop being automatic. That might look like not always responding at the same speed, not always engaging with the same depth, not always resolving tension immediately, not always explaining your reasoning. There is no announcement, no justification, no confrontation. From the manipulator's perspective, something unsettling happens. Their predictions start failing. And when prediction fails, influence weakens. Distance versus withdrawal, a critical distinction. Many people try to escape manipulation by cutting off completely. This often backfires. Withdrawal signals danger. Danger activates escalation. The manipulator increases pressure, intensifies guilt, or reframes themselves as the victim. Distance works differently. Distance means you are still present, still civil, still composed, but no longer emotionally accessible on demand. Distance reduces leverage without triggering alarm. Access is the real currency of power manipulation. Do not control people directly. They control. Access to your attention, time, emotional reactions, internal reasoning. When access is unlimited, influence is effortless. You do not need to revoke access entirely. You only need to make it conditional and inconsistent, not as punishment, not as a tactic you declare, as a natural result of self-regulation. Silence as a diagnostic weapon. Silence is often mistaken for avoidance in manipulative dynamics. Silence is revelatory. When you stop filling gaps, urgency appears, tone shifts, pressure surfaces. Silence forces the other person to move, and movement exposes intent. Silence is not passive. It is diagnostic, controlling pace instead of outcomes. People focus on outcomes, being understood, winning the argument, reaching agreement. Manipulators focus on pace. Who feels rushed? Who feels pressure? Who feels the need to decide now? If they control pace, outcomes follow automatically. To regain power, you do not force conclusions. You slow the system. Delay weakens pressure. Pressure relies on urgency, partial engagement. The art of non-feedback total disengagement is not always necessary. Partial engagement is often more effective. This means responding without elaboration, acknowledging without committing, listening without correcting. Partial engagement denies feedback. The manipulator cannot tell if the tactic worked, if escalation is needed, if they should retreat. Uncertainty drains their advantage. Why over-explaining makes you predictable. People facing manipulators often over-prepare. They rehearse explanations. They collect logic. They build arguments. This feels empowering. It isn't. Explanation assumes fairness. Manipulation does not operate there. Every explanation sharpens the manipulator's model of you. Your strength is not having the perfect response. Your strength is not needing. 1. Ethical inconsistency versus strategic opacity. This is where many people hesitate. They fear. Inconsistency means dishonesty. It doesn't. Your values can remain stable while your expression becomes selective. What you think, feel, and believe does not need full public access. Opacity is not deception. It is protection. How manipulators react when predictability breaks, when predictability disappears. Manipulators cycle through phases: confusion, testing, escalation, or withdrawal. They may increase charm, introduce guilt, create urgency, act offended. These are not emotional reactions. They are probes. Your task is not to correct them. Your task is to remain steady. Consistency matters more than behavioral consistency. Emotional flatness as temporary armor. You do not need cruelty, but emotional flatness temporarily blocks leverage. It prevents guilt hooks. Fear triggers validation. Traps. Flatness is not absence of feeling. It is absence of display. Manipulators cannot exploit what they cannot see. The internal shift that changes everything at this stage. A quiet shift occurs. You stop trying to be understood. You stop trying to fix the dynamic. You stop chasing resolution. You focus on positioning. Effort decreases on your side. Effort increases on theirs. That imbalance is intentional. Once you have shifted your internal position, calm, unreadable, unreactive, the next battlefield is frame control. Manipulators operate by framing reality. They define what is urgent, important, acceptable, or normal. Their advantage lies in setting the stage before anyone else speaks. To counter them, you must reshape the stage silently. Frame control is not argument. It is not aggression. It is contextual positioning. It is the quiet ability to set boundaries, redefine timing, and manage perception without ever saying, "You are manipulating me." Why framing works before arguments. Why manipulators' success is rarely about convincing facts. Facts are replaceable. Their power comes from how facts are interpreted and how outcomes are perceived. If you react emotionally, explain, or justify, you are participating in their frame. They have already defined what is a reasonable reaction, what is urgent, what is acceptable behavior. The more you respond on their terms, the more leverage they maintain. Shifting the frame means stepping outside the terms they define. You do not argue the situation, you reposition it. Techniques for subtle frame shifting. Pause before responding. Every pause signals that your internal timeline is different from theirs. It forces them to recalibrate their assumptions. Pauses do not need explanation. they simply exist. Reframe questions. When a manipulator asks a loaded question, answer the content without engaging the premise. Example, they say, "Why didn't you respond faster?" You respond, "I needed clarity before acting." This reframes urgency into rationality, denying emotional leverage. Set implicit boundaries. Boundaries do not need announcements. They exist in behavior. How quickly you respond, how much information you share, and how you manage access. Boundaries communicate control without confrontation. Define the pace. Manipulators push urgency. You reclaim it by acting deliberately, never hurried, and without panic. When they attempt to accelerate decisions, your calm timing automatically shifts the perceived power. Information as a framing tool. The second layer of frame control is strategic disclosure. Manipulators rely on the fact that you will reveal patterns. What triggers you emotionally, what decisions you feel compelled to explain. Where you are inconsistent, you can use disclosure deliberately. Share information that stabilizes your position. Omit points that reveal leverage, or pressure points. Let statements, not explanations, carry your decisions. This is subtle. You are not hiding truth. You are structuring access to it. The power of neutrality in framing. Neutrality is not passivity. It is context control by remaining neutral in tone, demeanor, and verbal output. You deny the manipulator emotional spikes. You prevent escalation. You force clarity from the other side. When a manipulator cannot predict your reactions, their frame becomes unstable. The advantage slowly shifts. How to let manipulators expose themselves. Manipulators test, probe, and push boundaries. They do not always declare their intent openly. By maintaining controlled neutrality, they are compelled to clarify their position. Over-explanation occurs naturally. Hidden motives leak in attempts to regain control. You do not interrogate them. You observe, note, and integrate what you learn. Every piece of revealed information strengthens your positional advantage. Preventing narrative hijacking. Manipulators frequently attempt to redefine context retroactively. Framing delays as laziness, framing boundaries as hostility, framing neutrality as weakness. Do not correct these frames explicitly. That reinforces their narrative. Instead, maintain consistent presence and consistent reaction patterns. Your position becomes a baseline others adjust to. The manipulator's attempts to control meaning lose effectiveness over time. The role of statements versus explanations reinforcing the previous principle. Statements close loops, explanations open them. A statement, "I will review this tomorrow." An explanation, "I am reviewing this tomorrow because I was busy and wanted to consider every option." The first is final. The second reveals predictability and internal reasoning. By mastering statements over explanations, you maintain control of narrative exposure. Strategic silence as a framing device. Silence is frame armor. Stops emotional leverage, denies narrative correction, forces the manipulator to fill gaps. Often over-explaining silence shifts power without confrontation. The manipulator reacts to what you do not say, revealing intent in the process. The internal effect of frame control does more than alter interactions externally. Internally, it creates stability. Your emotional state is no longer reactive. You stop feeling compelled to justify, clarify, or argue. Your energy is focused on observation and positioning. This internal equilibrium is the foundation for the next stage of manipulation reversal, where control is shifted not only through unreadable behavior, but also through predictable structural power. Structural power is where manipulation quietly collapses. Up to this point, you have disrupted predictability, controlled emotional access, managed information flow, and stabilized your internal state. That alone weakens most manipulators. But now the dynamic shifts again. The manipulator no longer dominates through reaction. They attempt to dominate through pressure architecture. Pressure is not emotion. Pressure is structure. It appears as manufactured urgency, artificial deadlines, moral obligation, implied consequences, silent expectations. This stage is where many people relapse, because pressure feels external, logical, and unavoidable. It is in single quotes. Understanding how pressure is engineered. Manipulators do not create pressure randomly. Pressure is built from assumptions they believe you accept. They rely on beliefs such as, you feel responsible for their comfort. You dislike unresolved tension. You avoid appearing difficult. You value harmony over position. Pressure only works when internal compliance already exists. Your task is not to resist pressure emotionally. Your task is to invalidate its structure. Why resisting pressure directly felt most? People respond to pressure by pushing back. They argue, "That's not fair, you're rushing me. You're being unreasonable." This feels assertive. It eyes in single quotes. Resistance confirms that the pressure is real and effective. The manipulator learns exactly how much force is required. Pressure does not collapse when it is challenged. It collapses when it is ignored structurally, neutralizing. Urgency without confrontation. Urgency is the manipulator's favorite weapon. Urgency bypasses thinking. Urgency compresses time. Urgency creates mistakes. You do not fight urgency. You outweight it. You respond with deliberate pacing, non-committal acknowledgement, temporal distance. You do not say, "I refuse." You say nothing urgent back. Urgency cannot survive without shared belief in time scarcity. Delays, as structural counter-control delays, are often misunderstood as weakness. In reality, delays redistribute power. A manipulator applies pressure to accelerate outcomes in their favor. When you delay calmly, their leverage decays, their emotional investment increases. Their composure weakens. Delay is not avoidance. Delay is pressure inversion. You make them wait in the same uncertainty they tried to impose on you. How? Guilt is manufactured. Guilt is not accidental. It is engineered. It is created by implicit expectations, emotional framing, silent comparison. Moral positioning only functions if you accept responsibility for something you did not choose. You do not argue guilt away. You remove its foundation. You stop accepting implied obligations, withdrawing from implied contracts. Manipulators rely on unspoken agreements. You should respond quickly. You should explain yourself. You should prioritize this. These contracts were never negotiated. They were assumed. Once you stop honoring unspoken contracts, pressure loses legitimacy, guilt loses traction, authority dissolves. You do not announce this withdrawal. You simply stop complying. Predictable structure, unpredictable outcomes. This is the paradox that disorients manipulators. Your behavior becomes structurally predictable. Calm, deliberate, minimal, unreactivate. Your outcomes are no longer predictable. Sometimes you agree. Sometimes you delay. Sometimes you disengage. They cannot reverse engineer you anymore. This asymmetry is intentional, letting pressure expose intent when pressure stops working. Manipulators escalate, not emotionally, strategically. They may Increase moral framing, emphasize consequences, invoke authority, suggest disappointment, teach, escalation reveals what they want, how much they want it, where their leverage ends. You do not interrupt this exposure. You let it unfold. The power of structural consistency. Earlier, consistency was a liability. Now, structural consistency becomes strength. Not consistency of response, but consistency of self-positioning. You are always calm, unhurried, unexplainable, unprovoked. This consistency exhausts manipulators. They rely on fluctuation. You become immovable. When the manipulator starts adapting to youth is the turning point. You notice they explain more. They justify themselves. They soften pressure. They test less aggressively. This is not respect. It is recalibration. Power has shifted. They are now responding to your structure. Why you do not finish the game, yet many people make a critical mistake here. They push for dominance. They expose the manipulator. They confront openly. This reactivates the game. Instead, you maintain structure. You let the imbalance stabilize. Control does not need announcement. It only needs maintenance. Preparing for the final stage. At this stage, pressure has lost force. Guilt no longer hooks. Urgency no longer dictates action. What remains is the manipulator's last defense. Identity-based influence appeals to who you are, who you used to be, who you should be. Identity manipulation is subtle, almost invisible. It does not rely on logic, facts, or even direct pressure. It relies on your own self-concept, your beliefs about who you are, how you should behave, and what is acceptable. Manipulators know that if they can make you question yourself at the core level, every choice you make becomes pliable. They exploit your sense of morality, your need for consistency, your desire to be good or reasonable, your past behavior patterns. At this stage, they may say things like, "You're overreacting," which isn't like you. "I expected you to handle this differently. You've changed, and not for the better." Each statement is designed to elicit doubt, guilt, or self-correction. Why? Identity attacks are the most dangerous. Previous layers. Information flow, frame control, pressure could be disrupted externally. Identity attacks work internally. They target beliefs you cannot see in real time. If you internalize them, every previous advantage evaporates. Your calm becomes shaky. Your structural positioning becomes reactive. Your statements lose finality, therefore. Mastering this layer requires internal armor stronger than any external tactic. Building the internal armor is clarity of self-concept. It is the knowledge that you define your actions, not others' expectations. Your boundaries are legitimate, even if challenged. Your choices are rational, deliberate, and autonomous. Key practices. Observation without judgment. See the identity attacks as data, not truth. Notice how your thoughts react without accepting them as fact. Reaffirm your standards. Privately review decisions based on your own reasoning, not the manipulator's framing. Maintain a mental checklist of principles that guide your behavior. Detach value from validation. The manipulator thrives on implied approval or disapproval. Your internal sense of worth must remain independent. Rewriting your narrative. Internally, manipulators attempt to define your past to control your present. They might twist memory, highlight errors, or suggest patterns that make you feel inconsistent. You counter this by owning your narrative. Keep track of your decisions and their reasoning internally. Accept mistakes as lessons, not flaws to exploit. Separate past behavior from current capability. By internalizing your narrative, you make identity attacks powerless. They are noise, not guidance. Neutralizing moral leverage. Many manipulators weaponize morality. They imply that failing to comply makes you selfish, unkind, or irresponsible. You neutralize this by defining your moral framework. You decide what responsibilities are legitimate. You decide when and how to act. You respond based on principle, not guilt, by reclaiming moral authority internally. External accusations carry no leverage. The role of patience and timing identity, manipulation relies on time compression. They want immediate self-correction. They want rapid alignment. You counter by slowing reactions, deliberately delaying internal judgments, pausing before self-critique with these. Patience breaks the manipulator's rhythm and prevents internalization of false narratives. Observing without participating. At this stage, power shifts entirely. The manipulator is now forced to act in the absence of leverage. You do not argue their claims. You do not defend your identity. You do not justify your decisions. Instead, you observe how they attempt influence, which tactics escalate, which tactics fail. Observation without participation converts their efforts into data for you, not pressure against you. Consolidating structural and internal power, all previous steps now converge. Predictability is gone. Information is controlled. Frames are set by your structure. Pressure is ineffective. Identity attacks are neutralized at this point. Control is permanent. Not through aggression or retaliation, but through consistent, strategic, self-directed positioning. Your advantage is quiet but absolute. You act deliberately. They react reflexively. You are unreadable. They are exposed. Why this approach is sustainably like confrontation, deception, or emotional retaliation. This method preserves integrity, preserves relationships where necessary, reduces stress and mental fatigue, prevents escalation cycles. It is sustainable because it relies on internal mastery, observation, and structure, not on external dominance or conflict. The final principle: maintain the system. Even after a manipulator loses influence, the structure must be maintained. Continue regulating emotional access, continue controlling information flow, continue frame setting, quietly continue self-observation, continue protecting identity. May attempt re-entry or test old assumptions. If the system is maintained, they can never regain leverage. This is the culmination of manipulation reversal. You do not just resist manipulation, you make it impossible. Closing thought: manipulating a manipulator is not about winning battles. It is about removing the battlefield entirely. By combining unreadable behavior, controlled disclosure, frame mastery, structural consistency, and internal identity armor, you shift power quietly and permanently. The manipulator may continue their patterns, but they no longer work. Control, in every sense that matters, has shifted entirely to you.